Good evening, everyone. This is the New Mexico 264 Alignment Study, Control 610-1220, our public scoping meeting for August 23rd, 2022. Welcome, everybody. All participants have been muted to avoid background noise. This meeting is or will be recorded. And should you have any technical difficulties, please reach out to WebEx at the number in front of the screen. Following the meeting presentation, we will take questions and comments online and by phone. Instructions will be provided on how to participate. Agenda for tonight's meeting is first we'll go through introductions of the study team. We will define what the scoping of the meeting is for today. We will walk you through briefly the NMDOT Location Study Procedures Guide. We will also touch on the study location. We will provide background and purpose for the alignment study as we are working on today. We'll provide an overview of the study, introduce you to their schedule, and discuss some next steps and how to provide input. Again, we also will have a Q&A after the presentation, and we will provide you with directions on how to send questions after the meeting. Starting off with introductions, my name is Priscilla Benavides. I am the Central Region Design General Manager. Lisa Vega is the District Engineer in District 6. Gabriel Sanchez Ramos is an engineer intern working with Central Region Design on this project. Arif Kazmi is the District 6 Assistant District Engineer. Rais Rizvi is the District 6 Technical Support Engineer. Steve Giesler is joining us as well. He is the Environmental Bureau Specialist, and Jennifer Mullins, who is our Public Involvement Specialist. Our team on the consultant side is HDR, and I think I'll hand it over to Amanda so she can introduce her team. Go ahead, Amanda.
Thanks, Priscilla. So my name is Amanda Gutierrez, and I'm the roadway engineer for HDR. We have Ed Potoff, who is the project manager. Dan Pfeiffer, he's our drainage engineer. Christy Shepard, our strategic communications manager. And Maria Altimus, our environmental planner. Okay, so this is a public scoping meeting where our intent is to meet the requirements defined by the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. What we'd like to do is solicit feedback from the public on the physical, environmental, and operational characteristics of the area. We're hoping today to get your input since you folks are the ones using the corridor most often, and we generally see a benefit to getting your input prior to developing our alternatives. We would also like to ask for your feedback on what is important for us to consider as we move forward with this alignment study. So for this alignment study, we will be using the NMDOT Location Study Procedure, where public involvement will occur throughout the environmental evaluation and the design process. This project will have two phases, with the first phase consisting of the overall project limits from Milepost 0 to Milepost 16, which is from the Arizona-New Mexico state line, or Say Bonito, to Yah-Ta-Hey. This phase will consist of a Phase A study, which is the initial evaluation of alternatives, and then we will proceed into Phase B, which is more of a detailed evaluation of those alternatives. We have another phase of the project, which is Segment 1, from Milepost 10 to Milepost 14, where we will continue the Phase C environmental documentation, and then move into the preliminary and final design. So here is the study location map. As you can see, the study location is just north of I-40 on the far west side of the state, stretching from the Arizona-New Mexico state line to Yah-Ta-Hey, again from Milepost 0 to Milepost 16. Here is a more detailed map for the alignment study. The yellow line shows the limits for the study from Milepost 0 to 16, and the teal line shows the limits for the Segment 1, or the final design area, Milepost 10 to Milepost 14. So part of the alignment study, we'll be documenting the existing conditions. We'll identify any traffic or safety concerns in the area, investigate sensitive cultural and biological resources, seek public and agency feedback, which is what we're hoping to receive from this meeting. And then we will compile this information and identify and evaluate improvement alternatives to narrow them down and arrive at a proposed improvement alternative. The preliminary purpose and need, or the intent of this study, is to address the existing roadway conditions, improve drainage conditions, improve multimodal access to the corridor, meaning pedestrian bus access, and to improve overall safety for the corridor. Okay, so for the existing conditions we have noted for this project is there's a pretty poor pavement, and this extends from Milepost 0 to Milepost 16. You can see there's pretty heavy wear. The current roadside barriers don't meet current standards, so those are something we would look to bring up to the current standard. We have a significant roadway embankment erosion. We will have a few pictures showing this here in a moment. We'd want to look to eliminate the erosion and try and reduce it in the future. We do have right-of-way limitations in the corridor. The project travels largely through the Navajo Nation, and so most or all of the improvements will remain within the existing right-of-way. There is a lack of median drainage system. There are some areas that have median drainage where the roadway is super elevated, but these are only isolated locations, and so we have significant debris and sediment in the medians. The pedestrian access routes, primarily in the urban areas, more in the Say Bonito area and Yah-Ta-Hey, don't meet the current standards, so we'll look to evaluate the best alternatives to bring those up to current standards. And then there are significant sediment deposits throughout the corridor. The existing typical sections for New Mexico 264, we've broken them up into three different sections. The first section is the urban section, from there in Say Bonito, Milepost 0 to Milepost 0.6. Here you can see we have two 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, the 12-foot left turn lane, 2-foot outside shoulders, curb and gutter on both sides, and then a 5-foot sidewalk. As we move east out of Say Bonito, we move into the rural section from Milepost 0.6 to Milepost 15.5. Again, we're maintaining the two 12-foot driving lanes in each direction. We'll have 4-foot inside shoulders and 10-foot outside shoulders, and there is a 16-foot raised median. Through this area, we do have multiple left turn lane accesses. As you can see on, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. As you can see on these typical sections, we have the eastbound left turn axis and the westbound left turn axis, and that is an existing 12-foot lane. And the 16-foot raised median reduces to an 8-foot raised median. Everything else will remain the same with the two 12-foot driving lanes and the 10-foot outside shoulders. And then the last section we have here is from Milepost 15.5 to Milepost 16, where the 16-foot raised median changes to a 16-foot two-way left turn lane, and then the 12-foot, two 12-foot driving lanes remain, as well as the 10-foot outside shoulders. So as I mentioned before, we have significant erosion throughout the corridor. So these photos are showing a few drainage crossings with the significant sediment and erosion at the outlet structures. We also do give the milepost for each one of these, just so you can see throughout the corridor the issues for the drainage crossings. This map shows the traffic speed through the corridor. As we start on the west side of the project at the Arizona-New Mexico state line, the speed is 45, and then increases to 55 just to the east of Say Bonito. And then at approximately milepost 6.5, the speed increases to 65 miles per hour, and then remains that speed until the approach to Yah-Ta-Hey, where it reduces back to 55. So part of the evaluation of the speed, we look at the roadway geometry, both horizontal and vertically. For the posted speed of 65, there are 6 deficient horizontal curves, and these are primarily due to substandard superelevation, that being the cross slope of the road on a curve. And then for the vertical geometry, there are 15 deficient curves, and these are primarily due to substandard K value or stopping sight distance, or it doesn't meet the minimum or maximum roadway grade. So what we have here is a crash map showing where most of the crashes occurred. So what we do here is we'll look at the geometry in these areas and other elements that would affect the reasons for increase in crashes or the concentration of crashes, and then include that in our analysis for what the proposed alternatives might be. So for the overview of the alignment study, the potential improvements include improved roadside barriers, that being guardrail and end terminals, improved turnouts and access to properties along the corridor, looking at spacing and sight distances for those accesses, updated pavement markings to have better visibility at night or during inclement weather, the potential of an upgraded ITS infrastructure or broadband throughout the corridor. We'll also look to upgrade the signage. Similar to the striping, it will make it more visible during the night and during inclement weather. Addition of drainage improvements to address the erosion and sediment issues. And then finally, we'll look at improved bicycle and pedestrian facilities, not only in the urban type areas. So for segment 1, which is the section that will go through the final design process, is from Milepost 10 to Milepost 14. We will provide environmental documentation, including biological and cultural surveys that have already been completed, and then we will enter into preliminary design phase with the alternative that was determined from a previous scoping report completed by the NMDOT, and finally, for this segment, we'll prepare and deliver final design plans. For this segment 1 area, construction funding has been identified, and we anticipate construction to start in the fall of 2023. The highway improvements for this segment will include full depth reconstruction of the existing pavement, drainage improvements to address the erosion and sediment issues, updated roadside barriers and signing and pavement markings, as well as upgrading access to the corridor. So for the proposed typical section that we'll be using in segment 1, we will be maintaining the 2 12-foot driving lanes in each direction, with the 12-foot left turn lane for the turnouts throughout on the north and south side of New Mexico 264. As you can see here, we have listed the turnouts and road locations. We will be reducing the median to 4 foot instead of the existing 16-foot median. This will help us with the drainage issues that we are seeing throughout the corridor with the debris in the medians, and then we'll be maintaining the 10-foot outside shoulders. For construction of this project, we wanted to touch base a little bit on the maintenance of traffic control. So the phasing that we're planning is in the preliminary stage. We're planning to shift traffic to either the eastbound or westbound lanes, depending on which side of the road we are constructing at the time. We will maintain at all times 1 lane of traffic in each direction, with access to the turnouts and roads on both sides of New Mexico 264. Okay, for the schedule, during the spring and summer of this year, we have established the need for improvement, which was completed with the existing conditions analysis. Fall of this year, we'll do the virtual public meeting, which is what we're doing today. And then we'll take the input we receive and start identifying highway improvement alternatives. As we continue into the winter of this year, we'll further evaluate the improvement alternatives and prepare the draft alignment study document. We'll then have our next virtual public meeting sometime in the winter of 2022, moving into 2023. In the spring of 2023, we will select the preferred alternative and submit the final New Mexico 264 alignment study. And then, as I mentioned before, the anticipated start of construction for segment 1 is the fall of 2023. As far as the next step goes, we will continue collecting the background data for the alignment study. We will review and document the public and agency input, and then develop the potential alternatives based on these inputs. So I will now pass it over to Christy, and she'll explain how you can provide input.
Thanks, Amanda. So we are soliciting input through September 22nd, 2022. You can provide your comments at any time at our project website. You can call 602-299-9581. You can also send us an email at the nm264study@hdrinc.com, or you can send any of your comments directly through mail. Just make sure that it includes NM264 Study, CFO Christy Shepard at HDR Engineering, 20 East Thomas Road, Suite 2500, Phoenix, Arizona 85012. And again, all of your comments should be received by September 22nd. And with that, we can go ahead and move into our question portion of the evening. Next slide, Randy. So to verbally make a statement or ask a question, we ask that you please virtually raise your hand. Here's how you do that. For those of you using WebEx through your internet browser, mobile phone app, or your WebEx desktop app, simply follow the instructions on the screen. If you would like to ask your question or make a statement, you can click the raised hand icon. When you are called, the moderator will unmute your mic and allow you to speak. When you are finished, the moderator will ask that you mute your line again, and we ask that you lower your hand by clicking on the raised hand icon. Again, for those joining online, all of these WebEx instructions are showing on the screen. If you are joining by phone as a call-in participant, you can press *3 on your phone if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. That gives us a hand raised signal, and when it's your turn to speak, we'll call on you and your line will be unmuted. When you finish speaking, please press *3 again to remove the hand raised signal. If you have joined us using one of the WebEx application, you may choose to submit your question or comment in writing using the WebEx Q&A feature. These instructions are displayed on the screen. Remember, if you're joining by phone, please press *3 if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. Again, it gives us that raised hand signal, and when it's your turn to speak, we'll call on you and your line will be unmuted. And a reminder, if you're having any technical issues, please contact WebEx Help at 866-229-3239. We will do our best to respond to questions in the order that they are received, so please be patient as we may have many questions. If needed, we can continue asking or answering questions for up to 10 minutes. If we still have outstanding questions at that time, we will respond to written questions as a part of the meeting summary and provide it to participants via our study webpage. For those on the phone, again, you can submit your questions or comments by phone or any other methods following the meeting. And with that, we will go to our first question. It looks like we have a call-in user. So call-in user, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line. I just sent you a request. You can just press *6, and that should allow you to unmute your line. You have been unmuted.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good evening. And I really want to thank the team for taking the time to conduct this study. It's very well needed. I will look forward to the meeting summary. But I also just wanted to add 3 areas because I do commute on a daily basis to Gallup to work. And I just wanted the study team to be mindful of the buses, the Gallup McKinley school buses that takes that route in the morning as we've started now. Sometimes there's no turnoff. They do exit off to the road if they have to pick up students off the roadside. So that's just one thing for you to keep a lookout for. The second thing is the drainage. I'm glad I heard that you're changing the change so that it allows more drainage. I think lately with the amount of monsoon weather we have received, there's been certain areas that normally always gets full to capacity. So I'm glad to hear that change in. But the third question I had was around the Yah-Ta-Hey turnoff. where I'm assuming there's a number of accidents probably on your study sheet that you had shown. I'm not able to see it, but I'm wondering if there would be a better way to kind of gauge that area, because sometimes in the morning I see these vehicles coming from that road and I'm on the main highway, and sometimes I'm not too sure whether that vehicle is going to stop or not. I've seen a number of accidents at that turnoff or right at that juncture. So I'm just hoping that you guys might be mindful about that. Other than that, those are the three that I had, and I appreciate you taking my comment. And I believe I go back to star 3, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Actually, we have a question. Can you repeat the road name on the last comment? I don't know if she's muted again.
Yeah, go ahead and press star 6 on your phone, and that should allow you to unmute your line.
Okay, yes, it is the Yah-Ta-Hey turnoff.
Can you spell that? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you spell that? Just to make sure we have it.
Okay, T-S-A-Y-A-T-O-H. I don't have the county road number, but everyone knows as a Yah-Ta-Hey turnoff.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we definitely took down her comments, and we will go ahead and incorporate that within our study. So thank you. Those comments are greatly appreciated.
Thank you. And I don't see any additional questions or comments at this time.
This is Stephen Giesler with New Mexico DOT. I was hoping maybe we could get a little bit more information from the caller about the school bus concern that she had. I'm not, aware of what the pattern of busing is on that roadway. Do the buses currently pull off onto the 10-foot shoulder to pick up students, but then their flashing lights are still, I'm assuming, stopping traffic in both directions, or how does that work? Are you able to elaborate on that, please?
Yes, can you hear me again?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, the Gallup McKinley School starts picking up student right at the Che Benito, and it works its way towards Gallup. And so there are many roadside turnoffs that are paved off-road, I guess you could say, up to the certain point, up to the cattle guard. So the McKinley County school buses, they'll pull off to the road. And so sometimes those of us in the morning commute, we will merge off to the left and to get into the passing lane so that there's no disruption. Obviously, the bus does not turn on their cautionary lights, nor do they display the stop sign. So pretty much traffic still flows through. In the wintertime, it's more hazardous because we're trying to mitigate, trying to go through if there's snow, so that we're having enough space between there are other vehicles also that do not take consideration to the bus itself or following the rules related to the school bus. So there's several stops. Like I said, it starts from Che Benito. So I'm not too sure if your study team would have a chance to observe that in the early morning hours. The buses usually start about 6:30. When I get through just before 7, I'm passing the bus, like I said about Yah-Ta earlier, normally around that time. And then after school, I don't know how it is after school, but I just see the morning commute. I hope that answers your question, sir.
That does. That's really helpful. I know we have reached out to the school as one of the stakeholders, but I think given what you've told us, I think we'll emphasize that effort and make sure we get some feedback from like their bus drivers and find out what we can do to improve that situation.
Okay, and if I can add one more, I know New Mexico was doing, they finished some completions up on the summit of Ganado heading into Window Rock. So they did offer some, what do you call it, like turnoffs for buses. So the county, I think, chipped in with the state on that. So they have like about 6 or 7 turnoffs for buses just to take so they're not holding up traffic.
Oh yeah, that's great. And while you're on the line, you mentioned that there were drainage issues as well. Have you noticed with the heavy rains we've had recently, any flooding across the roadway?
Yes. I wanted to get the mile marker today when I was coming back home after work, but past Milepost 12 heading towards San Benito, where the abandoned trailer is that used to be something, I don't know, but they shut down. They had some good flooding in that area. That's also the same area when it snows. That area gets clogged up with snow slush, if I'm to use that term.
Oh yeah.
And then the other, area is little past Yah-Ta-Hey, not too far from the turnoff heading to San Benito. There's a small area. That area always gets flooded. In fact, you could see the dirt debris on the roadside right now. And then the third area is right. We had the mass flooding not long ago, and it's just right before you get to Rim Rock. When you're coming down past South Mine turnoff, the former P&M South Mine turnoff, you're coming down that hill, you're ready to come around that big curve. There's that, there's a bridge area there. And so lately that area just got flooded recently again today. You could still see some debris, mud debris. The crew are out there right now doing some paving going on right now. So they had to clear out that area. So they might tell you what I'm talking about past Rimrock. That's the other area that I'm familiar with.
That is very helpful. I really appreciate that information. And, you know, we could certainly interview our local maintenance patrol to help zero in on some of those drainage problems that you're speaking of and make sure we address them.
Okay.
Thank you again.
All right, one more if I may, sir. Just before Edward O. Plummer interchange, before you're heading into Gallup, they had mass flooding in that area 2 weeks ago. They had a big cloud burst. So going under the bridge, I don't know, you have this big pile of sand and the light fixtures in that area don't work as well, but that's the other major mass area that causes traffic delays.
Okay, and that's on New Mexico 264, or are you on 491 now?
Just close to the tail end of 264 going into 491 at the Edward O interchange, Edward O Plummer interchange.
Oh, sure. Okay, I know the area you're speaking of.
Okay.
Great, thank you for that information.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Very helpful.
Okay, at this time, I don't see any additional questions coming through. I think at this point, I can turn it back over to Priscilla to close us out.
Thank you, Christy. Well, thank you for joining us. We do appreciate the comments we received. It was extremely helpful. It's going to help us moving forward within our study, give us a little more focus area. So we truly appreciate your participation and your involvement and your concern for this corridor. Please, if you think of something further or within your commutes, you see another issue that you would like to bring to our concern, reach out to us, reach out to the team, and provide us with such comments. With that being said, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the team for participating and hosting this. Thank you to Amanda for doing an excellent job in presenting the presentation. And of course, to the entire team for all the support we received tonight. With that, I'll go ahead and say goodnight and thanks again.